This is Global Signals by Andrew Dremin. Deep dives and insights about retail and FMCG.
Glad to be here for this one.
So imagine you're walking into a fast food place, right? You look up at the menu board and there's this glowing, perfectly stacked burger.
Oh, yeah, the classic Impossible Burger photo.
Exactly. The lettuce is like impossibly crisp, the bun doesn't have a single crease, and the cheese is just melting in a way that honestly defies physics.
Right, it looks like a sculpture, not food.
Yeah. And when you look at that picture, what actually goes through your mind? Because you don't think, wow, that's exactly what I'm about to eat.
No, of course not. You're bracing for disappointment.
And you think, yeah, right. The real thing is going to be flat, gray, and squashed in a paper wrapper. And that instant, that automatic skepticism you feel, that is no longer just a fast food problem.
It really isn't. It's everywhere now.
It has infected the entire retail landscape. And it's completely rewriting the rules for how you, as a listener who works in retail or FMCG, have to actually run your business. So today, our mission for this deep dive is to unpack a really fascinating 2026 report by Andrew Dremin.
Yeah, it's called The Doubt Economy, Why Proof Beats Hype in Retail.
That's the one. We're going to explore this massive shift where, heavily polished advertising is actually hurting brands now. And operational transparency has somehow become the ultimate competitive advantage.
It's a huge pivot from how things used to work. I mean, for decades, really.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because there's a statistic right at the top of the report that genuinely made me stop in my tracks.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
A staggering 69% of consumers have completely dumped a brand because they stopped trusting its business practices.
Yeah.
Like 69%.
Yeah.
We're not talking about a handful of disgruntled shoppers leaving a bad review on some niche forum here.
No, far from it. And what's fascinating here is that this 69% abandonment rate isn't some, temporary dip in customer satisfaction that a quick PR campaign can fix by next quarter.
Right. It's not a blip on the radar.
Exactly. This is a permanent structural loss of revenue for brands that are stuck operating in the past. We are basically witnessing the death of what the report calls the trust economy and the birth of the doubt economy.
I really want to dig into those terms, actually, because they sort of frame our whole discussion. How did the old, the trust economy actually function on a day-to-day basis?
Well, the trust economy operated on a very simple, almost naive premise, looking back. Consumers generally just assumed good intent from the companies they bought from.
So they just believed what they were told?
Pretty much. I mean, slogans were enough. If a company's marketing department came up with a catchy, clever phrase and plastered their logo everywhere, that focus on claims and branding was usually sufficient to win and hold market share.
Wow, it sounds so easy compared to today.
It was. You just had to confidently tell people you were a great company, and for the most part, they believed you. The psychological baseline for a shopper was just, trust.
Right. And obviously, the doubt economy flips that baseline entirely on its head.
Completely. Today, consumers are actively, aggressively skeptical. They've stopped passively absorbing marketing messages, and they've started interrogating them.
Yeah. They're looking for the catch.
Exactly. In the doubt economy, hype actually generates doubt. If you shout through a megaphone about how, amazing and sustainable and high quality your products are, the modern consumer's very first instinct is to wonder what you're trying to hide behind all that noise.
It's like the marketing itself is a red flag now.
It is.
Yeah.
So the entire corporate focus has to shift away from making these grand claims and move toward providing undeniable proof and absolute transparency.
But there are still major brands out there burning through millions of dollars on shiny slogans and polished TV ads, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're spending a fortune on corporate fluff, but the reality on the ground is that shoppers are actively hunting for reasons to doubt those exact claims.
Which really begs the question of how we arrived at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, people aren't just born cynical about their grocery shopping. We have to look at the friction that broke the camel's back.
Right. It was a gradual process of being let down.
Yeah, because it makes me think of an analogy based on this report. When a brand today says, we offer the absolute highest quality, it's a lot like a stranger walking into a room and loudly insisting they are the most honest person there.
Huh. Yes, exactly.
Your default reaction isn't to trust them. Your default reaction is to immediately check your wallet to see if any cash is missing.
That is a great way to visualize the psychology at play here. The consumer's default reaction to marketing is suspicion, because retail history over the last few years is just incredibly full of broken promises.
So we didn't just get here by accident then.
No, not at all. The report details 4 specific types of constant, low-level friction that consumers have experienced repeatedly. Over time, these frictions have basically retrained the human brain to stop believing what brands say.
Let's look at these 4 culprits, because reading them, they are painfully relatable.
They really are.
The first one driving this skepticism is shrinkflation. I hate this one.
Yeah.
This is the scenario where you're paying the exact same price at the register, but you're suddenly getting smaller package sizes.
Yeah, it's a hidden price hike, plain and simple. The brand is essentially gambling. They're hoping you don't notice that the cereal box is slightly thinner.
Or the juice bottle has that massive indentation on the bottom.
Right, so it holds a few less ounces, but the price tag hasn't budged at all. But here's the thing, when the consumer inevitably does discover this, and they always do eventually, it doesn't just feel like a clever pricing strategy to them.
No, it feels like you're being robbed.
It feels like a betrayal. It's a direct hit to the fundamental trust between the buyer and the seller.
And honestly, the second culprit feels even sneakier, which is skimflation. So this is where the packaging stays exactly the same, the size is the same, but the brand has secretly swapped in cheaper ingredients.
This one is just insidious. The company decides to swap out a high-quality oil for a cheaper palm oil, or they reduce the percentage of real cocoa in a chocolate bar, all while keeping the packaging and the marketing totally identical.
And again, they are just banking on the consumer not noticing the degraded quality.
But consumers have taste buds. They notice when their favorite snack suddenly tastes slightly off. And when they realize the recipe was cheapened without any warning, the resulting friction destroys the brand's credibility. It basically tells the consumer, hey, we are willing to trick you to save a cent.
Which is brutal for long-term loyalty. Then you have the third culprit, which kind of moves away from the physical product itself and into the corporate messaging, and that's fake sustainability.
Oh, the greenwashing.
Exactly. These are those vague green claims backed by absolutely zero supporting data. A product suddenly has a little green leaf on the label. Maybe the plastic is slightly brown and it just says eco-friendly or natural.
But there is absolutely no proof of how it's actually better for the environment.
Right, zero proof.
That's the corporate fluff we were talking about earlier. It's marketing masquerading as actual operational change, and consumers just see right through it now.
And then you have the fourth culprit, which is arguably the most infuriating on a practical, day-to-day level, delivery failures.
Oh, we've all been there.
You're given a promised delivery window, you rearrange your entire day for it, the window is completely missed, and the kicker is that there are no updates and no compensation offered. You are just left waiting in the dark.
Exactly. So when you stack those up, shrinkflation, skimflation, fake sustainability, and delivery failures, you're looking at a consumer who has been burned over and over and over again. Of course, their default state is doubt.
So what does this all mean? Like if I'm running a retail or FMCG business today, how does this psychological shift actually impact my bottom line? Is it just that people are grumpier, or is it hitting the financials?
Oh, it's hitting the financials profoundly. The report brings in a recent global study by McCann that makes this just impossible to ignore. They surveyed more than 20,000 consumers.
Oh, wow, 20,000. That's a huge sample size.
It's a massive, highly significant data set, yes. And it confirms a direct, unbreakable financial link between trust and profitability. The key finding is that 80% of shoppers state they will pay a higher price if they genuinely trust the brand.
Wait, 80% will pay a premium just for real trust?
Yes, 80%.
That is wild.
Yeah.
And if you pair that with the stat from the top of the show that 69% of shoppers walk away permanently when trust is broken, the financial stakes here are basically life or death for a brand.
They really are. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look at the nature of low-margin industries. In retail and fast-moving consumer goods, competition traditionally devolves into a brutal race-to-the-bottom price war.
Right, everyone's just trying to undercut the competitor on the shelf by a few cents.
Exactly, but constant discounting completely destroys your profit margins over time.
I see where this is going. If you're stuck in a price war, you're already losing. But this McCann data proves that trust acts as a direct margin shield.
That's perfectly put. Trust is the premium currency in 2026. If consumers actually believe your claims, if they trust that your product hasn't been skimflated and that it will arrive exactly when you say it will, you do not need to cut prices to make the sale.
Because they're paying for the reliability.
Right. That operational trust protects your profit margin in a way that no clever advertising campaign ever could, because the consumer is willing to pay a premium just for the peace of mind.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because I want to push back on this a little bit.
All right, let's hear it.
I understand the logic for everyday groceries, right? But what about massive cultural moments? Let's take the World Cup.
Yeah.
Isn't a massive event like that exactly when a brand should rely on an expensive, emotional, 60-second commercial? I mean, sports are driven by passion. If you're a major brand, shouldn't you be building a huge hype campaign around sportsmanship and unity to connect with the audience?
You are definitely not the only one who thinks that. In fact, that is the exact mindset a retail client brought to Andrew Dremin recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They wanted to know how to build a massive emotional hype campaign for the World Cup to capitalize on that exact passion you're talking about. And Dremin's advice to them was incredibly blunt. He just told them, stop hyping, start proving.
Come on, though. That sounds completely counterintuitive for the biggest sporting event on the planet.
Yeah.
You're telling me a brand shouldn't tap into that emotion at all?
I'm saying the emotion doesn't matter if the logistics fail. You have to look at the actual numbers around how people interact with major sporting events today. The report lays out the reality, and it's very sobering for ad agencies.
Okay, what do the numbers say?
81% of adults watch the matches from their own living rooms, and 36% of adults plan to spend more money on groceries during the event.
So all that sweeping cinematic emotion, it basically ultimately boils down to a massive group of people sitting on their couches eating snacks.
That is the reality of the couch viewer, and that person sitting on their couch does not care about your expensive cinematic commercial about sportsmanship. They really, really don't.
What do they care about then?
What they actually care about is basic, flawless operational execution.
Right, because they have very immediate, very practical needs. They want to know, are the items actually in stock? Is the price accurate? And most importantly, will the snacks and drinks arrive at my door before kickoff?
That is the entire ballgame for a retailer during the World Cup right there. Operational execution is your marketing now.
Wow.
If the delivery is late, if the drinks don't arrive until halftime, I guarantee you that a beautiful, sweeping advertisement playing on the TV in the background will not save that customer relationship.
In fact, it might make them even angrier because the hype feels like a mockery of the failed service.
Exactly. The hype is useless if the proof, meaning the actual operational execution, falls flat.
That makes total sense. If the beer isn't in my fridge when the referee blows the whistle, I don't care how much your brand claims to love football.
Right.
So, since we know that execution beats emotion, who is actually out there winning market share by doing this right now? The report highlights two great case studies of leading retailers who are replacing fluff with proof.
Yes, focusing entirely on operational transparency.
Let's talk about the first one, HelloFresh UK, and a concept they call unedited reality.
HelloFresh UK is such a brilliant example of abandoning the old trust economy tactics. If you think about traditional food marketing, it is heavily artificially manufactured.
Oh, yeah, like the glowing burger we talked about.
Right. The standard playbook is to use intense studio lighting, bizarre food styling tricks, like, painting a turkey with motor oil so it shines, or using glue instead of milk for cereal shots.
Glue instead of milk, that's so gross.
It is, but they do it along with heavy photo editing, all to make the meal look impossibly perfect.
But HelloFresh UK went the complete opposite direction, right?
They did. They ditched the studio lighting entirely. They stopped using styling tricks. They just started showing raw, unedited photos of the real meal kit ingredients on their platform.
Think about how terrifying that probably was for a marketing executive to approve.
Oh, I'm sure it was a battle. But the result of that shift is profound. By showing shoppers exactly what will arrive in the box, like a normal-looking carrot, a standard, imperfect piece of chicken, they actively remove those unrealistic expectations.
Which means they are systematically engineering disappointment out of the customer experience.
Precisely. When the food arrives and it looks exactly like the unedited photo on the website, the consumer feels respected. It builds incredible long-term trust because the brand proved, visually, that it wasn't hiding anything behind studio tricks.
They proved they are operating in reality.
Exactly.
It's basically the visual equivalent of absolute honesty. Now, the second example the report gives is Ocado and how they handled precise delivery windows.
This one is great.
Because instead of relying on general, vague slogans like, "We deliver convenience,"
Yeah.
which is what every other brand yells through the megaphone, they got hyper-specific with their operations.
Right. They focus their efforts heavily on offering exact halftime delivery time slots during major matches.
Halftime delivery.
Yeah, think about the operational confidence that requires. They aren't just promising to bring you food sometime before the game ends. They are promising to thread the needle and get your groceries to you exactly during that frantic 15-minute break in the game.
That is an unbelievable logistical flex. And the result is that fans can order food and know with absolute certainty that it will arrive precisely when they can actually get off the couch to answer the door without missing a goal.
Exactly. And the takeaway from Okado's approach is that identifying and solving a specific real-world operational friction point creates far more loyalty than any emotional branding ever could.
They didn't tell a grand story about how much they love the fans.
No, they proved they understood the football fans' actual logistical needs, and then they executed it flawlessly.
So shifting a strategy from hype to proof clearly requires some very practical, almost painful changes across the company's operations. You can't just slap a "We are transparent" sticker on a box and call it a day.
Definitely not.
The report actually lays out a 4-step playbook for retail and FMCG executives to make this transition. Let's walk through how a brand actually moves from the old way to the new way. Where do you even start?
Well, you start by dismantling the corporate instinct to artificially polish everything. The very first move has to be visual.
Which brings us to the first step of the playbook. Use raw visuals. The mandate here is to stop over-editing your products. You have to show real items in real settings. The report specifically notes that if you sell fresh food, you need to show how it looks under standard lighting, not in elaborate studio setups.
Right. This ties right back to the HelloFresh UK case study. A slightly bruised, real-looking apple builds exponentially more trust in the doubt economy than a digitally perfected, glowing apple that doesn't actually exist in nature. You have to show the consumer that you aren't afraid of reality.
Okay, then once you've fixed the visuals, you have to fix the language. Step 2 is make logistics your headline. This is all about replacing generic adjectives with hard numbers.
Because adjectives are just hype. If you promise fast shipping, you are communicating basically nothing. The modern consumer sees the word fast and immediately assumes late.
Right, because of all those delivery failures we talked about.
Exactly. Instead, you need to show real-time tracking metrics right on your site. If 98% of your orders arrive within 30 minutes, you state that exact statistic. You use the hard data as a headline to remove the doubt before the customer even has a chance to formulate a question.
You're essentially proving the claim before they even ask. Now, step 3 is vital given what we discussed earlier about the friction of hidden changes. Step 3 is be transparent about pricing and sizes.
This is how you counteract the damage of shrinkflation and skimpflation. Look, the reality of business is that sometimes supply chain costs spike, and it forces a change in a product's size or price. You can't always avoid that.
Right, inflation is real.
Exactly. But the playbook says you must communicate it clearly. Consumers notice shrinkflation immediately. If you try to hide it, it breaks trust permanently. But if you explain it, if you put a note out saying, hey, supply costs went up and we had to adjust the size rather than compromise the quality, it actually retains their respect.
You treat them like adults, basically.
Yeah.
You invite them into the reality of the business rather than trying to trick them.
Precisely.
And finally, step 4 deals with what happens when things inevitably break down. Fix mistakes proactively. We all know things go wrong. Deliveries fail, traffic happens, products go out of stock.
But the old way of handling that was to hide behind automated customer service bots, make the phone numbers impossible to find, and force the customer to fight you for a resolution.
Oh, I've spent hours on hold fighting for a refund before. It's the worst.
Exactly. Step 4 flips that completely. It says, when a failure happens, you need to issue an immediate refund or send a notification before the customer even has to lodge a complaint.
That is a massive paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Just imagine the shock and delight of checking your phone to see a message saying, we notice your delivery is delayed by 20 minutes due to traffic. We've already refunded your shipping fee, before you even walk to the window to check if the truck was there.
It completely diffuses the friction. By fixing the mistake proactively, you are providing undeniable operational proof that you value the customer's time and money more than your own short-term margin.
Wow.
It turns a potential lost customer, someone who is about to become part of that 69% abandonment statistic, into a fiercely loyal advocate for your brand.
So, bringing all this together, the core philosophy of this 2026 report really comes down to the death of a very specific, historically dominant type of marketing, doesn't it?
It does. In 2026, selling perfection is just a dead strategy. And the reason it's dead is very simple. Perfect does not look real to a modern consumer. When they see perfect, their skepticism flares up instantly.
This is the stranger shouting about being honest again.
Right. The brands that succeed today, the ones holding on to their margins, are not the ones with the loudest campaigns or the biggest ad budgets. The winners are the brands that systematically remove doubt, reduce friction, and back up absolutely every claim with hard, visible operational proof.
Stop selling perfection and start selling proof. Because in today's doubt economy, the company that removes the most doubt wins the wallet. It's a challenging new landscape, but the roadmap is incredibly clear if you're willing to embrace the unedited reality of your operations.
I couldn't agree more.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, our listener, with a final question to mull over with your own team. We've talked a lot about the death of traditional marketing and the rise of operational proof today. So ask yourself this: how are you showing real, unedited proof to your customers today?
Now that is a question that will keep a lot of executives awake tonight.
You are listening to Global Signals by Andrew Dremin. Deep dives and insights about retail and FMCG.